Hello everyone, this is part 16 of What If Naruto Was Adopted by Kakashi, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
In Gato's headquarters, one of his lieutenants was marching to the room that the ninja and the boy were using with a large group of hired killers as well. He had gathered up some of the worst types of people he could find as he wanted to make sure that this ninja was killed. They would have to rush him with the best killers he could find. They walked over to the door as their leader stopped. He was a bit nervous after all, he had heard the stories about this guy. "So is he in there?" one of the new guys asked. "Yes, and be quit. The food we sent in was laced with a drug that should knock him out, but just in case he didn't take it, we need to go in there and hack the big bastard down. Then we can deal with the boy on the bed as well once the big one is taken care of," the lieutenant told them. "Oh come on, it's not like he's expecting this and he's only one man," another said, grinning at the thought of an easy paycheck for this. The group's leader was about to make a comment on that, but he never got that far, as Zabuza's sword suddenly came through the door and right through the leader and two of the others, while cutting the arm off another. Cries of pain and death sounded as the door suddenly split open as Zabuza himself stormed out. He saw the shocked and surprised faces. That was good for him, he liked it when they were scared. He had noticed the drug in the food. Only a genin wouldn't notice that kind of trick. Hell, he had used that trick before himself on certain targets when he couldn't get close, as did many in his line of work. So he had been waiting for this. He had put a chair by the door waiting for the men to come. Once they were close enough, he would attack them first to throw them off, then it was a simple matter of hacking the rest to pieces. Which led to this moment as he swung his huge sword, throwing the bodies off the blade and managed to cleave through a few more men. There were shouts and people yelling and total chaos. This was bad for them but good for him. One man against a group was bad odds, but when that group was disoriented, it turned the odds in his favor. "Come and meet your death," Zabuza yelled as he tore into the group. He showed no mercy, as with his large sword gave him a long reach. A couple tried to get under his blade, but a punch here or a kick there to get rid of that problem. Sometimes he broke a rib or kicked a knee to bend in a way that wasn't meant for a human knee to bend. That caused more problems for them, as now they had men on the floor trying to get around the ones rolling on the ground in pain. Zabuza also had another thing to worry about. He had to cover the doorway in case someone got by him and tried to use Haku against him as a hostage. So he didn't let it happen. He cut, sliced, hacked his enemies to pieces. The blood flowed and flew as the room was starting to be painted in the blood of his enemies, as he was being painted in the red blood as well, making him look every bit the demon that he was nicknamed. He could smell the fear in the air as their confidence dropped. That was when they were truly dead. When you thought you were going to die and didn't fight for survival, you were as good as dead, and he could sense that in them. Some of them started to run away for help, at least the smart ones did. The rest he finished off. By the time he was done, the place looked literally like hell itself. He was breathing a little hard and his arms started to ache, but years of using his sword had made him strong enough to have kept swinging for an hour. But he had little time now. He quickly went back into his room and got the chair he had been sitting on and threw it at the large window, breaking the glass. He went over to Haku's bed and putting his sword on his back, he gently picked up the boy in his arms. Zabuza had taken care to prepare Haku for travel. He immobilized him as much as he could, wrapping the boy's arms to his chest and making sure the wound was tightly bonded up too. The boy moaned a bit in pain and he was sorry for that, but they couldn't stay here anymore. He positioned him as best he could in his arms before jumping out the window and making his way to the only place he might be able to take Haku. Wave Village. Sakura wasn't sure what was going on, but there was something going on with two of her friends. Naruto and Hinata had been acting weird around each other for the past few days. Hinata would blush even more at the sight of Naruto and he would look a little sheepish around her as well. Something was up, but when she pressed them for something they wouldn't say what exactly. It was frustrating not knowing, and so she took her frustrations out on her training. She had so far mastered the water walking and was building up her chakra now, as controlling her chakra was something she had always been good at. She wanted to learn some more. Eustace and Kurenai was able to help her with refining her genjutsu skills, but she needed to learn a bit more. Mainly something more offensive would be helpful. Sakura had also taken to practicing with her tonfas in the woods as well. After her last training session she was tired, sweaty, and a certain tree now had pieces of the bark removed from all the hits. Her arms felt dead afterwards as she kept her wrist weights on, but it was good for her. She sighed as she sat on the ground taking a break and a nice cold drink from her canteen. She closed her eyes as she rested against the tree. All in all, this land wasn't bad, although she hoped that the village would recover. Every day she helped Tsunami with her shopping, and every day it broke a bit of her heart at seeing how the people lived. She still remembered that little girl that asked for food. Her body looked like the girl hadn't eaten much in days, and Sakura was most likely right. There was also another reason she was working so hard, mainly to try and not think about her own little problems. Mainly that she had given up on having more than a friendship with Naruto, and now the whole thing with Sasuke just left the girl feeling depressed. Maybe I should just focus more on my ninja life, Sakura sighed. Hell no. You can't give up now. I say we get stronger and then Sasuke-kun will have to notice us. Inner Sakura told her. You think that might work? Well, if we can't ask him out, he didn't say anything about asking us out, her inner self said. To Sakura that actually made a little sense, but then she had no idea what Sasuke even liked. She remembered that rumor that he liked long hair and nearly all the girls had grown it out, Ino being one of them. But Naruto had said he liked her hair the way it was, and she had liked him a bit back then too, plus Sasuke didn't seem interesting in long hair. Now that she thought about it, she couldn't remember any girl that caught his interests. Maybe we should ask for some help. From who though? Sakura thought about it. For relationship advice maybe Kurenai would be nice, it would be good to get another female ninja's views on it. Plus, Sakura bet that Kurenai had to have a lot more experience in this given she was an adult. But who to ask what Sasuke liked? She couldn't go right up to him and ask because she doubted he would answer, and it would be pretty silly. Maybe Naruto would know. You think? Well, he and Sasuke train a lot together, and maybe because they're boys they would share or talk about girls. Sakura doubted it, but it wasn't like she had anything else to go on, and even though Naruto and Sasuke never seemed to get along, as far as she knew, Naruto was the closest thing to a friend that Sasuke had. Sakura. Sakura was pulled out of her thoughts by the familiar stutter of her friend Hinata. She looked over to see the girl playing with her index fingers like she normally did. Are you okay? Hinata asked, seeing Sakura's rather haggard look. Yeah, I'm just taking a break from training, Sakura told her. I really need to keep up with my teammates and it's not easy. Sasuke-kun's like a natural, and with Naruto's stamina and the way he works himself to death, I need to keep up or I won't be any use to them. Hinata nodded, knowing what it was like to live up to high expectations. She sat down next to the other girl. They had known each other for years, and she and Ino were the only two girls that Hinata was friends with. It was nice to have some female company at times as well. So, what's going on with you and Naruto? Sakura asked, as this was her chance to find out what was going on. Hinata blushed bright red. Oh come on, you and him have been acting all weird and the others may not notice, but I have. So come on, what's going on? You two aren't fighting or anything, are you? And no, it's nothing like that, Hinata said quickly. Well come on, you might feel better if you tell me. Sakura asked her nicely. Hinata thought about it. She hadn't really talked to someone, and keeping it all in wasn't really helping her either. She eventually broke and told the other girl what had happened on the roof. You two kissed. Sakura couldn't believe it. Sure, it was an accident, but she knew of Hinata's crush on Naruto, and the girl finally got her first kiss with him. The romantic side of her was going nuts with images of the two of them in a romantic setting. But it was an accident, we even talked about it. Hinata told her. Flashback. It was the morning after the kiss, and both teens had been having trouble even looking the other in the eye. Hinata kept blushing more than usual when she locked eyes with him and felt like fainting when she thought back to Naruto's mouth on hers. Her heart would skip several beats faster, and she couldn't look at him for too long before she felt like she couldn't take any more. Naruto was kind of the same, as he blushed lightly thinking back on that day. Eventually it was just getting too much, and Naruto managed to catch Hinata along at the end of the day. Hey Hinata-chan, can we talk? Naruto asked her. Sure. Hinata wasn't able to say more than that in fear that she wouldn't be able to talk anymore. Are you mad at me? He asked. I mean, you won't look at me or even talk to me, so I figured that you were mad, Naruto said, looking down. The last thing he wanted was for Hinata of all people mad at him. If she was mad, that made it feel like he had just gotten kicked in the guts by a horse. And no, I'm not mad, Naruto-kun, really. She really didn't want him to think that she was mad at him. So then why have you been avoiding me? Naruto wondered. Well, it's just that, you know, when we, Hinata pushed her index fingers together trying to explain it. Was it a bad kiss? Naruto scratched his head. No. Hinata instantly covered her mouth as her eyes widened. Well, that's good, Naruto chuckled. I hate to think it was a bad kiss, but it was a lot better than the last one I got. Hinata couldn't help but giggle at the disgusted face he made as she too remembered that day. Hey, it's not that funny, Naruto whined. Sorry, Hinata said with a small smile. So, it was a good kiss then? Naruto asked as she blushed so red he thought that was a good sign. Well, I hope this doesn't ruin our friendship. I mean, you're one of the most important people in my life. Why, you're important to me too, Hinata said, giving a small yet warm smile. Good then, still best friends, right? Naruto smiled at her with his eyes closed, looking very much like the kind of smile that Kakashi gave. Although she would love to be more than friends, his friendship was something that she never wanted to lose. Yes, still friends, she told him. End flashback. Sakura sighed hearing this. You know, you really need to tell him how you really feel. I want to, but every time I try I just, well. Hinata trailed off. Yeah, we all know, Sakura said to her. You know, in a way we're the complete opposites. You can't tell the boy you like how you feel, and when I tell the boy I like, he just ignores it. Hinata hugged her head, slightly depressed now. She really did want to tell Naruto, but she just couldn't get the courage to do it. It was bad enough that he saw her training that one night, something that she was still embarrassed about and hoped that Naruto never found out that was her. Then there was the kiss, something she had dreamed of all this time and yet not exactly the magical moment she had hoped for. And Sakura, one of the girls who had come a long way since their childhood as the pink-haired friend, had had the same confidence problems that Hinata had. While Hinata had gotten a bit better, Sakura was the most changed, and yet she too couldn't seem to get the boy she liked. But you know what? Sakura suddenly said, getting Hinata's attention. I'm not going to give up. I know what I like and I'm going for it. Besides, if he doesn't like me, then I guess I can move on, but not until I said that I've done everything I could, and so should you. Me. Of course, you're not going to let me make an oath like that alone, are you? Sakura smiled at her. Hinata thought about it for a moment and then nodded her head. Somehow she would find the courage to tell Naruto how she felt one day, she was sure of it. As much as this little display of kunoichi is very touching, it's making me sick to my stomach. They both jumped and got up quickly, and when they saw who it was they both froze. Standing not 10 feet away was Zabuza, and he was carrying Haku with him. Both young girls weren't sure what to do because they both knew that if this man wanted to kill them both he could do so easily. Relax, I'm not here to fight, he said coldly to them. Take me to Kakashi and that other woman, I want to talk terms with them. Later, Kakashi and Kurenai had just finished their talk with Zabuza. It wasn't exactly the easiest conversation as everyone was tense. When he had first shown up with Haku in his arms, both John and teachers were on the guard just in case. They heard what Zabuza told them about how Gato had tried to kill him and Haku, and the man's plans for hiring an army to attack the town. Kakashi and Kurenai both had been paying attention to both his story and his body language. Being a ninja meant you picked up a lot of different skills, and to be a jonin you usually had many on hand. One of them was the ways to pick up when someone was lying. Unfortunately, another trait was how to lie, and it was safe to assume that Zabuza knew how to lie and not be caught as well. It was just one of those circular logical problems that happened in the ninja world. Kakashi decided to take things at another angle. This man wouldn't come to them with such a story just to get them to lower the guard and kill them in their sleep. When you fought someone, you got a good idea of the kind of person they were. Zabuza was the type to come at you head on or even sideways, but deception like this wasn't the type of style he had. Plus, Kakashi had seen the man with the boy, it was in the eyes. Zabuza actually cared what happened to Haku, which in itself was surprising to Kakashi, as the stories about the man said he didn't care about anyone or anything. I guess even a demon can have a heart, Kakashi thought as he took all this in. All in all, he came to the conclusion that Zabuza wasn't lying to them, and now they may have solved one problem but now had a whole new one. So then you came to us of all people, Kakashi surmised. It's not like I had a lot of choices, Zabuza said, sounded irritated about the whole thing. Besides, I had hoped someone had some medical training to help, and I can't take Haku too far with his injury. We only have basic field training, but we'll do what we can, Kurenai told him. Zabuza nodded. It wasn't what he had hoped for, but it had been a long shot even when he made the choice. Maybe we can work out a deal, Kakashi said, thinking about it. We got a lot of enemies coming here soon, and a lot of innocent people could be hurt or killed, so if you agree to help us out, I can send a message to Konoha to send a medic nin here for the boy. With that, he can make a full recovery. I have your word on that, Zabuza said. Kakashi nodded. Yes, we're no longer enemies it seems, so I might as well use you to help us and also help you in return. Fine, Zabuza simply said. Good. Now I think we should make up a plan for the defense of the village, Kurenai said as they started to plan out what they would do. While they were planning, Naruto was looking in on Haku. The boy had been in and out of consciousness as the genin had taken turns looking after him. Hinata seemed to be helpful as she was out looking for herbs to help and had some of her healing salves. They weren't top-notch healing items, but every little bit helped. Naruto was also glad that he worked things out with Hinata. He sighed thinking about that he really needed to get over this. It was just a kiss, right? Okay, so it was his first girl kiss and it hadn't been bad or nothing, it was just that she had been his best friend for so long he didn't think of her as a girl in that way. Okay, she was cute, but she would never think of him in that way, would she? Plus, he was still haunted by that girl on the water. He couldn't stop thinking about her. Hell, he was still having dreams about that girl. Naruto just sighed thinking that life was just way too complicated these days. You look really serious at the moment, you know that. A soft voice spoke up. Huh. Hey, you're awake? Naruto smiled at the boy. He looked a little pale and weak, but so far Haku looked like he was doing better. You look pretty good for a guy who had a hole put into his chest. You're lucky my dad pulled away at the last moment, or you really would be dead. Yes, I'm surprised I lived. Haku had been in and out of it for days. He was surprised that Zabuza had kept him and was caring for him. He was just a tool, wasn't he? Yeah, well, it looks like Zabuza was taking good care of you, and we made a deal with Konoha to send her a medic team. My dad plans to send one of his ninja dogs with a message later today with what's going on. He would have sent it sooner, but he didn't want a team to be jumped by more forces. He had heard how Kakashi explained that he was unwilling to put others into more danger. They were two full teams, granted only genin teams, but he had no way of knowing if Zabuza would have been patrolling the route to the village or any other forces that Gato had. Now with Zabuza on their side for the time being, they had enough intelligence for Kakashi to give that to the Hokage, so the team on the way would be able to avoid any dangers. Haku was silent a moment as he stared up at the ceiling. What's wrong? Naruto asked. I'm not sure why I'm still alive. I'm just a broken tool now. I'm worthless to him, so why did he save me? Haku asked, confused. You know, that kind of talk really pisses me off, Naruto told the boy. I mean, we're people first, and if you really want to know, it's that he cares about you. I don't know exactly how things are, but you know, in a really, really weird and strange way, it's kind of like he's your dad. Haku's eyes widened quickly at that. His own father had tried to kill him and ended up killing his own mother. Oh come on, the guy took you in, trained you and raised you, Naruto said, smiling. You want to know a secret? Kakashi did the same thing to me, so in a way we're both the same. Haku looked at the masked boy as he thought about it. It was a strange concept to think of Zabuza as a father figure, but not an unpleasant one. In fact, he had more memories of Zabuza than he had of his own family. And when he looked into the eyes of the boy next to him, he could see that his eyes were very familiar. They were eyes that knew loss, pain, and yet what it was like to be taken in as well. You have someone precious to protect, don't you? Haku asked him. Naruto was taken aback from the question. Yeah, I got lots of people. I mean, there's my dad, the old man, then I got a few crazy people that I like to call my aunt and uncle, my friends, and Hinata-chan. Haku smiled at that. That's good to know. You know, true power comes from the need to protect those precious to you. That's where real strength comes from, and with so many people to protect, I can see that you'll get very strong. Hey, Naruto laughed, rubbing the back of his head. Thanks. So, can you tell me more? I never really got to talking with others before, Haku asked him. Naruto nodded as he started up with his life, then went into his family and friends and even his best memories of them as well. Haku told him about the Mist Village and his life on the road with Zabuza, well, the good parts and not the missions. Overall, it was a good time for both young boys, and both felt that they had met someone that could understand them in ways that others couldn't, even if they didn't totally understand it themselves. They were still talking when Kiba came in to relieve Naruto, but the boy just said he had it covered. Kiba shrugged as it meant some free time for him, so he was all for it. He just got them some lunch and that was it. It was weird as how Haku had not that long ago been their enemy, and there was Naruto making friends like the boy was an old friend. Kiba had to admit that Naruto had a talent for making friends. He still remembered the day he met the blonde at the academy. That had been a rocky start, but later Kiba thought he was a good guy, but there was still Zabuza. Now that was one scary guy, and he wasn't sure he could even sleep comfortably knowing that guy was around. He could already tell that it was going to be a long night tonight, plus from what they had heard from Kurenai, Gato was about to attack very soon as well. Man, when it rains it pours, it seems, Kiba thought as he wondered what he could do to kill a few hours. The ninja were gathered around Tazuna and his family's dinner table as they were setting up the plans to defend the village. There were many little things to represent certain buildings or areas of the village as they planned it out. Kakashi and Kurenai had to admit it was strange working with Zabuza, but the man knew the kind of people that Gato had, and so far the plan was looking good. So then we're in agreement on the plan, Kakashi said, looking it over one last time and then looked to Zabuza. You're sure the attack will be today? Not all the way, but given that he tried to have me killed with Haku says he's ready, the former Miss Ninja said. As the adults were talking, the genin were already preparing in another room. Team 7 was told to get rid of the weights on their wrists and ankles so that they would be able to move more freely and not to hamper their speed. While doing this, both teams were preparing in different ways. Shino was communing with his bugs to help with planning out the possible things that could happen to them. Hinata was busy ensuring that her healing supplies were well stocked up as well in case anyone got injured, as well as the few medical supplies they were keeping here as well. Kiba was looking over his equipment with Akamaru asking the dog questions, mostly about which pills the dog felt he could handle if they were needed. Team 7 was doing the same, although they were also looking over their weapons as well. Sakura was polishing her metal tonfas, checking for any weakness in the metal that could make the weapon break just in case. Naruto and Sasuke were working on their swords as well. The atmosphere was pretty tense as no one was saying anything. For Team 8 this would be their first major battle. Kiba was actually looking forward to it, while Hinata was a bit more nervous, and Shino, well, it was hard to tell with him what he was feeling. Team 7 had been through something like this before, sure not as big as this, but they were preparing themselves for the battle ahead. Inari had been nervous about the whole thing, although lately he had been thinking on things. Seeing kids, not much older than him, preparing for battle was a little unsettling. He saw Naruto taking care of a sword with great care as the younger boy came closer to take a good look at it. Naruto couldn't help but smile behind his mask at the boy's interest and looked at him. Like it. It looks pretty cool, but it looks different than Sasuke's. Inari told him. Yeah, it's a chakra blade. It actually can channel chakra from the user. This belonged to my grandfather and then my father, and now it's mine. It served the Hitaki family for 3 generations and now it's my turn to carry it. Naruto told him, and he was proud to wield this blade. There was an untold amount of history with it, and now it was his turn to add to that history. Inari looked at the blade, his eyes widening a bit more at the thought of the sword being in use for so long. It didn't look that old, plus there was no damage on the blade either. Then he looked back to Naruto again. Why are you guys doing this? I mean, you don't have to risk your lives for us. Because it's the right thing to do. We were hired to protect your grandfather, but we're taking a little leeway with our mission. In a way we're still protecting him, but now we're just expanding how. I figure with Gato gone he'll be pretty well protected, and if the village is safer for it, then that's one hell of a nice bonus, right? At least that's what I think. My dad plans on telling to Hokage to explain all of this. Naruto gave the boy a wink to let him know the meaning behind his words. Inari could only give a small smile knowing that the boy really meant. Bridge. It was later in the day when Tazuna and his people were working on the bridge. So far things were going well, and in a week the bridge should be finished. It was like a dream come true. One of, if not the largest over-water bridge was nearing completion, and soon the village would have a direct trade route to the mainland for the first time ever. They wouldn't need to rely on shipping companies like Gato's anymore. Now trade caravans could make their way into the village on their own for once, and since the bridge belonged to the village, no company had any rights to it. That meant that Gato couldn't sink his claws into it like he had with many other businesses in their land, which was slowly choking his village into a slow death. although he knew that plan, that didn't mean he wasn't nervous about all of this. There was just a lot riding on this, and the waiting was nerve-wracking for the old man as well. He sighed as he gave out orders to the workers. They may be the bait for this trap, but there was still a bridge to build, and no matter what, he wasn't losing any time. It wasn't until one of the workers came up behind him. "Hey Tazuna, I think we have company." Tazuna turned around, and there he could see a group of people walking towards them. He could see Gato out in front, and his blood ran cold at the sight of the man. Normally he wasn't one to hate another person, but in Gato's case he made an exception. This man had caused untold amounts of pain to his village and family. There was nothing more he would love to see than that man to get what was coming to him. Gato stopped a few yards away with a grin on his face, looking over the bridge. "It seems you never learned, you Tazuna. I would have thought my demonstration in town with that boy of yours would have stopped you from this foolishness. You were also lucky to make it back, but this ends here, old man. Once you're gone, I'm going to demolish this bridge, and then the village will serve as an example for others. But first, where are those Konoha ninja?" Gato looked around but saw only construction workers. Tazuna gave a small smile that left Gato confused. "All around you," Tazuna said. All the workers turned into puffs of smoke as they turned into Team 7, with the majority of them being shadow clones of Naruto who had put them into a henge. There was also Zabuza as well, grinning almost evilly under his bandages. In fact, with the amount of killing intent he was giving off, even those on his side were giving him some space. Gato looked at the ninja in front of him. He hadn't planned on him being here, let alone Zabuza being here. Gato had thought the man, when he heard the news of his escape, would be on the run. Not once did he think he would actually join the other ninja. It was obvious he was worried from the look on his face, but he still had on a sly grin on his face. "You think you're all so smart? Well, by this time the village will be having a surprise with all of the rest of my men. I thought I had cowed this village, but I guess they needed a reminder. Maybe if I take a member of each family they'll learn their lesson, and I doubt the old fool can live with that kind of blood being spilt, am I right?" Tazuna looked a bit sickened at the thought. It was bad enough what had happened to his son-in-law, but he knew that Gato wasn't bluffing. The man was the kind that could do something like that and not even lose a bit of sleep over it. "You're a bigger fool than I thought," Zabuza said to him. "You honestly think all of the Konoha ninja are here?" Back in the village, the men that Gato hired started to terrorize the village. You could hear the shouts and cries of panic as the criminals busted into homes, or businesses. The people were running in the streets, and some of men were carrying or dragging people into the streets, but thankfully Team 8 was on the job to protect the village. Kiba was with Akamaru on a rooftop as he saw a few men dragging out a family. As an Inuzuka, he, like the rest of his clan, had strong ties to their families, so seeing one being attacked only made him angry. "Let's go, Akamaru," he said, giving the small dog a special pill of his. The puppy ate it and his fur turned red as he took on a more vicious look. Kiba got on all fours as his dog jumped onto his back. "Beast human clone jutsu," Kiba said as both he and Akamaru transformed. Kiba's nails and fangs grew out, giving him a slightly feral look as Akamaru turned into an exact copy. It was a clan jutsu that made the dogs take on the forms of their owners, and a bit of the dogs went into them, enhancing them. "Fang over fang," Kiba cried out as they both jumped into the air and starting to spin. They looked like two mini tornadoes as they flew into the group of thugs. The men scattered as they were hit by the Inuzuka team, their bodies covered in claw marks. Shino was in another part of the town as he calmly looked over the scene. Earlier he had used his bugs to mark all the civilians in the town with a special pheromone so his bugs would know who to protect and who to hurt. He raised his arms as swarms of black insects flew out over his area of the town. The criminals soon found themselves being covered in his bugs as they ate their chakra. It only lasted a moment, but the men fell to the ground too weak to move. He recalled his bugs to him and moved on to another section to defend. Kurenai ended up trapping her opponents in mass illusions. She wasn't as kind as her students as she slowly took out the hired criminals. They made them see their allies as enemies, and she watched coldly and calmly as they killed their comrades, not knowing the truth. When there was one left, she easily came up behind him and slit his throat. Some may see what she did as cold and unfair, but she was a ninja, and at times things needed to get this dirty in order to win and protect others. After she was done, like the rest, she went in search of others. Hinata felt nervous. She never was one for violence, but she knew what would happen if she did nothing. She still remembered how she froze in her first battle. She had done better the next time, but this time there was a whole village to protect. She found a couple of hired swords chasing two children for fun apparently. She jumped down in front of the men who looked on in amusement. Why you will leave them and this village alone, she told them, although she wished she hadn't stuttered or had put more force into her voice. The men just laughed at her and told her that she should have stayed home playing with her dolls. Hinata readied herself as she activated her bloodline. She could see their chakra paths and they would learn that she may be the most gentle of the Hyuga clan. She was in no means not a threat. They came in at her and they were surprised by the speed and agility she was showing by twisting out of their attacks. Her hands with lightning speed struck at the key chakra points. In a matter of seconds she had them both on the ground, unable to move. She cast a quick look to see the children had run off and she wished them well. A loud sound caught her attention as her eyes picked up more trouble a few blocks down as she ran towards it. In another part of the village at Tazuna's home, his daughter and grandson could hear the sounds of the battle. Tsunami was worried, not only for her village but for her grandfather and the ninja he had hired. Inari looked up at his mother and he could see that she was worried sick. He on the other hand had a newfound faith in Naruto and his friends. It will be okay, Mom, Inari told her and she gave a small smile. I'm going to check on Haku, okay? The small boy went up the stairs to where the injured ninja was still recovering. He looked in bad shape to the young boy and couldn't help but wonder at times how the older boy managed to hang on with a wound like that. He entered the door to see that Haku was asleep again. There was still some food left and he reached down to take it so it wouldn't spoil when he heard the commotion downstairs. There was the sound of the door being forced open and his mother's scream. He heard the sounds of unfamiliar men's voices. There were the sounds of struggling and Inari ran downstairs. He saw the mess of the kitchen from the overturned table but he didn't see anyone. Then the sounds he noticed again were outside this time and so he ran out fearing for his mother. As soon as he got out the door he saw two men had his mother. Mom! Inari yelled out trying to run to her but he had been in such a hurry he hadn't noticed a man had been by the door. He felt a strong hand grip him by the back of his neck as he tried in vain to thrash out of it. Inari, please don't hurt him. Tsunami told their captors. Sorry lady but the boss says the old bridge builder is to pay for getting in the way, you and the kid are going to be the message, one of the men holding her told her without a hint of remorse at all. The other one leered at her thinking, you know the boss didn't say when to kill them and she's kind of pretty. You think he'd mind if we had some fun with her before we do her and the kid in? Leave her alone. Inari shouted out as one of the men licked the side of her face. The men laughed but suddenly the one holding Inari gave a grunt as his body jerked and then fell forward. The last two men were stunned seeing their comrade fall down with a slim metallic object dug into the base of his skull at the neck. Everyone looked up to see a very haggard-looking Haku there. He was barely standing up and he looked like he was in pain with the effort with a modified sling holding his arm. Haku had woken up from the noise and it had been a major effort to even get this far, but these people had helped him when he had tried to kill a member of their own family. He felt that he owed a department for this family plus he liked him as well. Who the hell are you? One of the men demanded. Your death, Haku said simply and with his good hand threw the two senbons at the other men, both hitting them in the side of their eye as the small metal weapons impeded into their brains killing them instantly. Haku lost any strength he had left and sank to his knees unable to even stand up anymore. Tsunami and Inari ran to the boy as the woman helped to keep the young man upright. What are you doing out of bed? You could have been killed. Tsunami said even though she was so grateful for the boy's help with his injury. Haku gave a small smile, I know but I had to help for all the kindness you've shown me. I'm more surprised you can even stand, Inari said to the pale-looking boy. Haku gave a small smile, you know the secret to true strength. When you have something precious to you to protect, that's what gives you the strength to carry on no matter what. Inari instantly thought back to his father, he thought back to that horrible day when he had seen him killed in front of the entire village. There had never been any fear in his eyes, in fact in one moment he had locked eyes with Inari and he had actually smiled. Inari didn't understand it then how his father could have endured all of that and why he fought Gato. But after what Haku said, maybe that was the reason why his father had never given up. His father had never given in no matter what Gato's men had done to him. And now there was Naruto and his team and friends defending their village without showing the same fear. Inari then remembered how he had been acting since his father's death and he felt ashamed. His father wouldn't want him to be like that and thinking about his father he knew what he had to do. Inari got up and started running to the house. Inari, what are you doing? Tsunami asked her son. Something I should have done a while ago. Inari told her, getting the supplies he needed. The village for too long had been cowed under Gato's power, but he was just one man. There were kids not much older than him putting their lives on the line for his village, and how can they hold their heads up with pride if the village not once even tried to help? It was time for the village to get its pride and its honor back, and he knew the way to do it. Bridge. Back on the bridge, Zabuza was hefting his large sword, preparing to hack to pieces as many men as he had to get at Gato. The rest of the ninja team looked just as ready as well. There were a lot of them, but they were just mercenaries. A ninja was far more deadly than any mercenary, although with the numbers they had it would give them a bit of pause. But only for a bit. Kakashi and Zabuza were there up front as both men readied themselves for the battle. Team 7, you know the plan. We're frontal assault. Naruto and Sasuke, you're the middle, and Sakura, you're our defender for those that slip past. Kakashi ordered out calmly. Team 7 went into action as the boys drew their swords, spacing out to be on the outside, while Sakura was centered in the formation at the back to protect Tazuna. They made a diamond-shaped formation as they waited for the mercenaries to charge. They didn't have to wait long. The men charged at them, figuring with their numbers they didn't have anything to fear. Zabuza and Kakashi showed them otherwise as they started to cut into the mercenaries. Zabuza, like before, used his massive blade to cut a bloody path of death through them. Although the plan was for him and Kakashi to thin the group, he still wanted to get at Gato. Kakashi had a kunai in each hand as he preferred to use his quickness and agility when fighting. He moved through the enemies, dodging their attacks and using fatal counters. Naruto and Sasuke gave each other a small look. Naruto grinned under his mask and gave the Uchiha a silent challenge. Sasuke noticed this and gave his usual smirk and got himself ready. Both boys had killed before, and although Sasuke had an easier time, he was remembering Kakashi's words to him earlier. Naruto was doing the same. He was controlling his breathing and preparing himself to kill again. He didn't want to, but he was a ninja now. He would feel bad later. At the moment he had people to defend and his team needed him. Soon the men came through the holes in Zabuza and Kakashi's line. The boys were ready as they used their swords to deal with the enemies that came at them. Naruto had created a few clones to help with the defensive lines. He wished he could use his exploding clones, but he didn't think Tazuna would appreciate the holes in the bridge. And his wind elements wouldn't really be good in tight quarters with allies so close. The same could use said with Sasuke as his fire techniques as well, so the plan called for swords. Sakura waited in her position. Although a part of her hated being in the back, they had to protect Tazuna. Plus she wasn't all that eager to go into a killing field. She had gotten over her first kill mostly, but she didn't want to do it any time soon. She watched as Naruto and Sasuke were in the heat of battle using their swords to injure, incapacitate and even kill again. She swallowed hard, trying to put those thoughts aside. The mission came first. She recalled the lessons in class about putting your emotions aside in a fight in order to get through it. Soon a few men had managed to break through the second line of defense and were heading towards her. Most likely they viewed her as the least threatening. She remembered how Anko told her that because of her looks most would assume she wouldn't be much of a threat. Remember Sakura, you're not exactly the most intimidating looking ninja, so they'll take it easy. The trick is to use it. If they make the mistake of thinking you're soft and easy, then you have to make them pay for it. You'll only get a small opening before they realize the truth, so hit them hard and fast, kid. Sakura nodded to herself, remembering Anko's words while she had been training under her in the use of the tonfas. The men came as her and Sakura could see them relax just like Anko said they would. She waited until they were close and then she unleashed her full fury. Without her weight she was much faster and she hit a hell of a lot harder as well. Cold metal soon met flesh, or the metal of their blades. Sakura would feel or even hear bones cracking and breaking as he hit the weakest areas of their bodies. She broke their ribs, joints, and the few times she got in a shot at the face, the teeth and noses. It was hard work, but thankfully Naruto had seen how many were getting through and sent a few of his clones as backup. She was thankful for that and made a mental note that when they got out of this, whenever she gained enough chakra, she would ask him if he could teach her that move. Having an extra hand here and there was very useful, but now was the time to concentrate on making sure they did survive this day. Gato saw which way the battle was going after a while. He had thought that the ninja would be too busy protecting the village. His plan to keep them busy with the villagers he killed Tazuna was ruined now. Without the client, the ninja would have no reason to stay, and as soon as they left, the remainder of his men were to come back then. Now he would have to flee while he could, and hope there was enough men left to start on a new plan. He turned around to get off the bridge but stopped when saw what was coming towards him on the other side. There was a group of people coming his way, but they weren't his men. They were the village, and Team 8 was leading the way. While Team 7 had been busy, Inari had managed to gather up the villagers. After they had seen how Team 8 was fighting for them and some choice words from Inari, the villagers had finally managed to find the courage to stand up to Gato. Those that could fight gathered what they could and went to help Team 8, and with their help they quickly managed to wipe up the rest of Gato's men. After they were done, Kurenai led them as quickly as they could to the bridge to see if Kakashi's team would need any help. By the time they got there, they could see that Gato's men were in trouble and the man himself was trying to get away. Gato backed up a few steps as the people were getting closer. Gato was thinking that there had to be a way out of this. Maybe he could bargain with them, it was worth a shot. Although by the looks of the villagers he was starting to doubt that, he still couldn't believe that things had gotten so bad. Kurenai was in the lead as the villagers were halted a few yards from Gato. Gato, you have serious crimes to pay for, Kurenai said to him. Murder, extortion, and violence, just to name a few. Go ahead and arrest me then, Gato grinned as he found his way out. With his money and resources he could buy his freedom. Sure, it wouldn't be cheap and he might do some jail time, but nothing too bad, and he could use the time to plan his revenge as well. Sorry, but I'm not letting you off that easy, a familiar voice said, making Gato break out in fear as he turned around. To the man's horror, there was Zabuza running towards him. The ninja's eyes were like a blazing fury of hellfire as he came at the man. No one tries and double-cross me, Gato, and it's time for this demon to send you to hell. Zabuza yelled out as his blade came down and literally cut Gato in half. It was a gruesome scene to most there that weren't used to such violence. Hinata felt sick just looking at it. Shino didn't say anything, but even he had a shocked expression on his face. Kiba was at a loss for words for a moment as he stared at the bloody mess that used to be a person. Oh man, that was the most brutal thing I've ever seen, Kiba muttered to himself. After seeing their boss killed, the few remaining hired men decided to hope for mercy and surrender. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.